My name is Hannah Walker, and I never thought one night could shatter the way I looked at someone I loved for years. I'm a sophomore in college now, but this story happened last spring during one of those infamous fraternity parties everyone warns you about, yet everyone still goes to. My boyfriend, Zach Miller, and I had been together since senior year of high school. He was the charming guy who never failed to make people laugh, the type of guy you imagined would always stay by your side, and to me, he was the safe choice. We'd survived the transition to college, even though we ended up at the same school, which most people said was a relationship death sentence. For a while, everything seemed fine until that night. The party was thrown by his fraternity, Alpha Sigma, and it was one of those massive events that everyone on campus knew about. The kind of party where people squeezed into every room. The music was so loud the walls shook, and red Solo cups littered the floor like confetti. I'd never been a big party girl, but Zach begged me to come along because he said it was important for appearances. That should have been my first red flag, that my boyfriend cared more about appearances than my comfort, but I ignored it. When we arrived, Zach immediately drifted off to talk to his fraternity brothers, leaving me standing in the entryway like some lost puppy. I told myself not to take it personally, he was hosting after all. I grabbed a drink and tried to blend in, chatting with a couple of people from my classes. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Zach was unusually distant that night. Normally, he'd at least introduce me to people or keep an eye on me, but instead, I caught glimpses of him across the room, laughing, whispering, and leaning far too close to another girl I didn't recognize. Her name, as I later learned, was Madison Lane. She had this effortless beauty about her, long auburn hair, piercing green eyes, and a confidence that radiated across the room. Everyone seemed to know her, even though she wasn't in our year. When I finally asked one of my friends who she was, I learned she'd recently transferred to our school and was already becoming a favorite among the fraternity guys. Something about the way Zach looked at her made my stomach knot. The first moment I truly doubted him came about an hour into the party. I was walking upstairs to find the bathroom when I passed by one of the quieter hallways. That's when I saw Zach and Madison standing much too close together, his hand brushing against her arm as she laughed at something he said. I froze. It wasn't incriminating enough to call him out. People stand close at parties all the time, but the way they looked at each other sent chills through me. He didn't see me, but Madison's eyes flicked in my direction, and for a split second, she smirked before turning back to him. That smirk felt like a silent message, I know something you don't. I spent the next hour trying to shake it off, convincing myself I was being paranoid. But then another friend of mine, Jasmine, pulled me aside. She leaned in close and whispered, "Hannah, I don't want to freak you out, but I think Zach's getting a little too friendly with Madison." I saw them heading toward the back room. My heart sank. I wanted to storm in there immediately, but some twisted part of me wanted proof. I wanted to catch him, to see with my own eyes whether he was betraying me or if I was just spiraling into jealousy. So I waited, pretending to laugh and sip my drink, though my hands shook so badly I nearly spilled it. 10 minutes later, Zach reappeared from that same hallway, his shirt slightly untucked, a flush on his face, and Madison nowhere in sight. When he finally noticed me standing there, his expression faltered for just a second before he plastered on a fake smile. "Hey, babe," he said casually, as though nothing had happened. I smiled back, but inside, I felt something breaking. That night wasn't just a party. It was the beginning of the end, the moment I realized the person I thought I could trust the most might be the one who could hurt me in ways I wasn't ready for. And I had no idea just how deep his betrayal was about to go. The rest of the night blurred into fragments, music thumping in my chest, people dancing and shouting, cups spilling, and Zach acting like nothing was wrong. I tried to enjoy myself, but I couldn't stop replaying the image of him with Madison in that hallway. Every time he put his arm around me or kissed my cheek, I wondered if he'd touched her the same way just minutes before. That sickening thought gnawed at me, and by the time we left the party, I was exhausted. When we got back to his dorm, I wanted to confront him. My chest ached with questions, and I could feel my anger boiling under my skin. But Zach seemed oblivious. He kicked off his shoes, collapsed onto the bed, and said, "That was a good night, huh?" as if we'd just been on a fun date. The sheer audacity made me freeze. If he really had done something, he wasn't even planning to admit it. I muttered something about being tired and left before he could question me. That night, I lay awake in my own dorm room, staring at the ceiling. I kept seeing Madison's smirk in my head, and I hated how powerless it made me feel. Over the next few days, things felt off. Zach texted me less than usual, and when we did hang out, he was distracted. His phone seemed glued to his hand, and he always tilted the screen away from me. When I teased him about being secretive, he laughed it off, saying, "You're imagining things." But deep down, I knew I wasn't. Jasmine was the one who gave me the push I needed. She sat me down at lunch one afternoon and said, "Look, Hannah, I didn't want to say anything because I wasn't 100% sure, but people are talking." I heard Madison bragging to some girls in the bathroom that Zach kissed her at the party. My fork clattered onto my tray. It wasn't just paranoia anymore, it was real. That night, I decided I needed proof. I wasn't about to accuse him without something solid, because I knew Zach. He was smooth with words, always ready with an excuse, and if I didn't have evidence, he'd just gaslight me until I doubted myself. So I did something I'm not proud of, I snooped. When he left his phone on the counter while showering in my dorm one evening, I picked it up, my hands trembling. His messages with Madison weren't in his main feed, they were hidden under a separate app I'd never seen him use before. I almost gave up, but curiosity got the better of me, and eventually I found it. What I saw made my blood run cold. Messages full of inside jokes, compliments, late night "you up?" texts. He told her she was exciting, that she made him feel alive, that being with me sometimes felt like settling down too early. And then, the worst one of all, last night was amazing. Can't wait to do it again. I dropped the phone like it burned me. My whole body shook as I tried to process the words. It wasn't just flirting. It wasn't just a mistake. He was choosing her. When Zach came out of the shower, towel around his waist, humming like nothing was wrong, I couldn't even look at him. My chest felt like it might explode. I shoved his phone back where it had been and forced myself to smile, but inside, I was crumbling. For the next 2 days, I avoided him. I told him I was busy with classes, group projects, anything to buy me time while I figured out what to do. Jasmine was furious when I told her what I'd found. "You can't let him get away with this," she said. "He betrayed you. You deserve better." But here's the thing, I wasn't ready to let go. As much as I hated him, part of me still loved him. Part of me wanted to believe he could change, that maybe it was a mistake, that maybe if I confronted him, he'd apologize and beg for forgiveness. So I came up with a plan. I would confront him directly, at the next party, in front of people. If he wanted to humiliate me by sneaking around, I would expose him where he least expected it. That Friday, Alpha Sigma threw another party. I dressed up, not for him, but for me. I wanted him to see what he was losing. Jasmine came with me, ready to back me up. My heart pounded as we walked in, the bass vibrating through my chest, the lights flashing across the room. And then I saw him, Zach, standing at the bar, Madison by his side, her hand grazing his arm. The sight made my vision blur with rage. But I forced myself to keep walking, keep smiling, as if I hadn't just seen my worst fear confirmed. Tonight, I wasn't going to cry. Tonight, I was going to end this on my terms. But what I didn't know was that Madison had her own plan. And she wasn't just interested in stealing Zach. She wanted to ruin me. The moment I saw Zach with Madison at the party, laughing like they had some private world I didn't belong in, something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to let them play me like a fool anymore. Jasmine squeezed my hand and whispered, "You've got this," before disappearing into the crowd to keep watch. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked straight toward them. "Hey, Zach," I said, my voice sugar-sweet but steady. His smile faltered, and for a split second, guilt flickered in his eyes. Madison, on the other hand, didn't even flinch. She tilted her head, looking me up and down, and smirked that same smirk from last time. "Hannah, hey," Zach stammered, slipping an arm around my waist like he could erase what I'd already seen. "Didn't know you were coming tonight." His tone was casual, but his body tensed under my touch. I leaned closer and whispered, "Really? You didn't think I'd show up to my own boyfriend's party?" Then I pulled back, loud enough for Madison to hear, and added, "Or should I say, your girlfriend's party." The music drowned out some of the gasps, but I saw people nearby glance in our direction. Madison's smirk widened, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. "Wow, Hannah," she said coolly. "You're really going to do this here? In front of everyone?" Zach looked like he was caught between two worlds, his eyes darting from me to her. He opened his mouth to speak, but Madison cut him off. "You should know, Hannah, Zach hasn't exactly been loyal. But maybe if you kept him interested, he wouldn't need to look elsewhere." Her words sliced through me, sharper than any knife. People around us pretended not to listen, but I could feel their curiosity buzzing in the air. My face burned, but I forced myself not to cry. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshots I'd taken of their messages, and held it up to his face. "Do you want to explain this, Zach? Or should I read them out loud so everyone here knows exactly what kind of person you are?" My voice shook, but it was strong enough to silence him. His face went pale, and he looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Madison laughed, a low, satisfied sound. "Oh, so you went through his phone. How classy. No wonder he needed someone else. You're suffocating." Before I could respond, Jasmine appeared at my side. Funny, she snapped at Madison, coming from the girl who's been throwing herself at half the frat guys since she transferred. "Don't act like you're special." The tension exploded. People were whispering, some cheering for me, others whispering Madison's name like it was breaking news. Zach muttered something about wanting to talk privately, but I shook my head. "No, Zach. You don't get privacy after betraying me. You wanted Madison? Congratulations. You can have her. But don't ever come near me again." With that, I turned to leave, my hands trembling, my heart racing. But as I walked away, I caught Madison's voice behind me, sharp and venomous. "You think this is over, Hannah? You don't even know what's coming." The words echoed in my mind the entire night. I thought she was just bluffing, lashing out because I'd embarrassed her. But I was wrong. So very wrong. The next week was a nightmare. Rumors started spreading across campus about me. That I was clingy, obsessive, controlling. That I'd been reading Zach's messages for months. That I'd threatened Madison. At first, I thought people wouldn't believe it, but the whispers followed me everywhere, in the dining hall, in lectures, even in the library. I knew exactly where it was coming from, Madison. She wasn't satisfied with stealing my boyfriend. She wanted to destroy my reputation too. And worse, Zach didn't defend me. He stayed silent, maybe even relieved to let me take the blame while he played the victim. By the end of the week, I felt like a stranger on my own campus. My stomach turned every time I walked past a group of people who went quiet as I passed. I couldn't focus in class, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Jasmine tried to comfort me, but even she couldn't stop the tidal wave of gossip. And then came the breaking point. One night, as I was leaving the library, I found a note slipped into my backpack. The handwriting was elegant, almost taunting. It said, "You should have stayed quiet. Zach was only the beginning. Next, I'm taking everything else you care about." My hands shook so violently I dropped the note on the ground. Someone wanted to ruin me completely, and Madison had just declared war. After finding that note in my backpack, I barely slept. I kept hearing Madison's voice in my head, that venomous promise that she wasn't finished with me. At first, I thought maybe she just wanted to scare me, but then things started happening that I couldn't explain away. 2 days later, I woke up to find my social media flooded with anonymous messages. Screenshots of fake conversations, edited to make it look like I'd been sending threatening DMs to Madison. Posts about me being toxic and crazy, with hashtags that spread faster than I could keep up with. People from other schools were even commenting, asking if the rumors about me were true. My phone buzzed nonstop, and with every notification, I felt my world shrinking smaller. Jasmine was furious. "She's framing you. We know it's her. We just have to prove it." But proving it was harder than we thought. Madison was smart, too smart. She never left her fingerprints on anything. Every rumor, every fake screenshot seemed to come from someone else. She'd built a network of people who believed her, who spread her stories, who painted me as the villain. And Zach? He stayed quiet. I texted him once, begging him to tell people the truth, to admit that he was the one who cheated. His reply was short and cold, "I don't want to get involved. Please stop dragging me into this." My chest ached as I read those words. He wasn't just betraying me, he was abandoning me completely. That week, I started avoiding the dining hall and even skipped a couple of classes. I felt like a ghost haunting the campus, and the worst part was how effective Madison's plan had become. People didn't just believe her lies, they enjoyed them. I caught people laughing when I walked past, whispering, pulling out their phones like I was entertainment. One evening, Jasmine convinced me to go with her to the student union to get dinner. "You can't hide forever," she said gently. We sat down with our food, and for a moment, I almost felt normal again. Until Madison walked in. She was surrounded by people, mostly Zach's fraternity brothers and a few other girls who hung on her every word. She spotted me instantly and made her way over, that smug look plastered on her face. "Well, if it isn't Hannah," she said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "How's it feel being the campus psycho?" Jasmine shot up from her chair. "Back off, Madison." But Madison only laughed. "What are you going to do, Jasmine? Write a strongly worded email?" "Face it, Hannah's finished. Everyone knows it." I wanted to scream, to cry, to tell everyone the truth, but instead I sat frozen, staring at her. Then she leaned down, so only I could hear, and whispered, "And this is just the beginning. You took something from me years ago. Zach was just payback." Her words knocked the air out of me. Years ago? What was she talking about? I racked my brain, but I had no idea what she meant. I didn't even know Madison before this semester. How could I have taken anything from her? That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I dug through old yearbooks, old social media posts, anything that could connect us. And then, buried in an old photo album from high school, I saw her. Not with the auburn hair she had now, but blonde, with braces and glasses. She'd gone by a different name back then, Addison Lane. It hit me like a punch to the stomach. We'd gone to rival high schools. And suddenly, I remembered her. She was the girl who had a massive crush on Zach back in junior year, the one everyone teased because Zach turned her down for me. I hadn't thought about her in years, but clearly, she hadn't forgotten me. The realization made me sick. This wasn't just about Zach. This was about revenge that had been festering for years. Madison Addison had transferred schools just to get close enough to destroy me. I told Jasmine everything, my voice shaking as I pieced it together. She grabbed my hand, her face pale. "Hannah, if she's been planning this for years, she's not going to stop until she completely ruins you." For the first time, I felt real fear, not just heartbreak or humiliation, but fear. Madison wasn't just a jealous girl. She was obsessed. And the worst part? She'd only just begun. After realizing who Madison really was, Addison, the girl from high school who'd nursed a crush on Zach and never let it go, I felt my whole world tilt. Everything suddenly made sense. The smirk at the party, the threats, the rumors. She wasn't just trying to steal my boyfriend. She was trying to erase me, to rewrite the story of who Zach had chosen back then. She wanted revenge for something that had happened years ago, something I hadn't even realized mattered to her. Jasmine and I spent the next few days trying to figure out what to do. "You can't just let her destroy you," she said firmly. "She's dangerous, Hannah. She's been planning this for years." But every time I thought about fighting back, I froze. Madison had already turned half the campus against me. What more could she do if I pushed her? I got my answer 2 nights later. I was walking back to my dorm after a late study session when I noticed someone following me. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but every time I turned a corner, the footsteps were still there. My heart pounded as I gripped my phone, ready to call campus security. When I finally spun around, Madison stepped out of the shadows, her green eyes glinting in the dim streetlight. "You can't hide from me," she said softly, almost like it was a promise. "Zach should have been mine. You stole him, and now I'm taking everything from you." My voice shook, but I forced myself to speak. Madison, this is insane. We were kids. He turned you down, it wasn't my fault. She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. It doesn't matter. He wanted you. Everyone wanted you. And I was nothing. But now? Now everyone will know who you really are. Something in her expression told me she wasn't bluffing anymore. She was unhinged, consumed by a grudge that had eaten her alive for years. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't safe. The next day, I went to campus security. I showed them the note she'd left in my backpack, the screenshots of her messages, even the story about her old identity as Addison. At first, they hesitated, saying it was just drama, but when Jasmine backed me up, they finally agreed to investigate. It all came crashing down the following week. Someone caught Madison Addison trying to break into my dorm room. She claimed she just wanted to talk, but when they searched her bag, they found another note inside, this one saying, "If you won't leave, I'll make you leave." That was enough. She was suspended from campus immediately. The rumors didn't stop overnight, but slowly, people realized the truth. Word spread about Madison's obsession, about how she'd been behind the fake screenshots and the harassment. Some people even apologized for believing her lies. Zach, on the other hand, never once reached out. I think part of him was relieved that Madison's obsession had taken the spotlight off his betrayal. But by then, I didn't care what he thought. For weeks, I struggled to pick up the pieces of my life. It wasn't easy, but I had Jasmine by my side, reminding me that I wasn't alone. And somewhere in all the pain and chaos, I realized something important. Zach's betrayal hurt, but Madison's obsession taught me the real lesson. You can't control the way people twist your story. The only thing you can control is how you choose to move forward. So I did. I cut Zach out of my life completely. I blocked Madison on everything, not that she could reach me anymore. And I started focusing on myself, my classes, my friendships, my future. Because no matter how hard they tried to break me, I was still standing. The college party where my boyfriend betrayed me had been the beginning of a nightmare. But it was also the beginning of something else, the end of me letting other people define my worth. And this time, I was finally free.